Thanks for joining us for Khari Free at Last on Bounce23 TV. I'm Khari Enaharo. The release of the long-awaited state auditor Dave Yost's investigation of Columbus City Schools' data rigging scandal revealed a 10-year pattern of corruption and some say organized crime. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow, Reverend John Coates, and Tyrone Thomas. Tyrone, you've been involved in testifying for years before the Columbus School Board. Were you astonished by this report?
No.
Why not?
No astonishment at all. You know, it only revealed a 10-year pattern of corruption, but, you know, I've been here over 25 years, and I've seen the corruption from the day one that you walked into this community. What the report says is there's absolutely no trust in what the board does down there when it comes to handling money and how it's distributed out. And, you know, we go back to the great Bill Moss and the Jerry Doyles who stood outside and protested and took long vacations outside of the Nationwide to say, hey, this needs to stop.
Yeah.
Now, Dave Yost's report should be the stop-all to what's going on down at the Columbus School Board.
You know, I am amazed, John, that all of this was going down the way it was going down, and it was defended by the system. How is that possible?
Defended by the system?
Yeah.
And gone down for a long time?
I mean, we were told every time a school levy came up, we were told everything is fine, everything is wonderful, graduation rates have popped up 75%. Now we know why they popped up 75%.
Well, first of all, when the end all, the ones we can blame are the voters. Because the superintendent and her administration they have a boss, and that boss was called the Columbus Board of Education, and the voters continue to put the same people in office who they trusted to be their watchdogs on the board. So the board failed the voters, and the voters fell for the same okey-doke over and over again. The same old line, it's about the kids, it's about the kids, it's about the kids.
Well, the line worked.
While ignoring the fact that it was actually about big business.
Earth Jallow, whoa, I'm gonna come back to that one, wow. Earth Jallow, what were we funding? I mean, what am I paying property tax for?
You know, you're paying property tax to fatten the pockets of the people who are in charge. Ultimately, when the children are not graduating, when the children are not reading and they're not being educated, then you have to start questioning, where is my money going? What am I paying?
Well, where was my money? According to Dave Yost, it looked like I don't know what I was doing. Was this another rabbit hole, Tyrone Thomas?
Well, you know, if you stop and look at it, the pattern of corruption there sparks to what the whole elected realm said. You know, you elected me not to take care of the business, but to take care of the money.
Yeah, but
and how I take care of the money,
this was an
you don't care.
outright con job. If Yost's report, his 18-month investigation is truly valid, this is the worst scandal I've seen.
What I've been seeing, you know, you ask where your money went and this, that, and the other, the gentrification that's going on in the community where, you know, you're getting rid of the black people and now the faces are becoming a lot lighter, they're not gonna move back into the inner city if the schools are not up to par. So they thought of that,
So was she under pressure to fix it quickly?
Was it her? Was it the people that was, you know, under her to fix that quickly? Because that would fix it quickly.
You're saying there was a conspiracy?
I think it was.
Wait a minute. What kind of conspiracy? There you go again. What kind of conspiracy?
To get the suburbanites back into the inner city. And they're not gonna bring their children and live in the inner city and downtown and those outskirts when those schools are subpar.
So they were pushed to raise the level of the schools to make it look like the schools were improving.
We're doing better so that they can entice.
You buy that, John?
Back into the community.
Not totally, because there's some other dynamics that was at play.
Well, there are parts of that you buy?
Well, parts of it I do.
Which part do you buy?
Some of it.
Well, let me tell you.
There's several dynamics that's at play. First of all, you had the whole charter school phenomenon taking place at the same time.
We'll talk about that.
So you had drastic reduction in student population within the Columbus public school system by thousands. Thousands of Central City parents took their kids out of the public school system.
Well, now we see for good reason.
To place them elsewhere. Yeah. But you also had another dynamic where the Board of Education handed over an unprecedented amount of power to the superintendent.
Yeah. How does that work, Tyrone? This policy, what's it called? Policy of governance? How does that work?
Well, if you stop and look at it, the superintendent had carte blanche, whereas the Board of Education, who we elected to do the job, just sit back with their hands folded. They said, go ahead, Gene, do what you want to do, but instead of saying, hey, here's about the kids, we're going to do this for the kids.
Is it time to get rid of elected boards? Maybe the mayor was right. Maybe I just ought to appoint a board.
I don't
And
like
elected
that.
boards are our hope.
Thank you.
We do not.
That was our hope? To let that scandal
They
go
have
on?
the ability to elect men and women to the Board of
Please.
Education to look at
Stay
our
right
interests.
there. Stay right there.
Our last-
Creating an illusion of education. Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. The findings of the 18-month state investigation tell a story of a superintendent who presided over a district in which administrators lost sight of their mission to educate children and instead focused on creating an illusion that they were getting good academic results. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Tyrone Thomas. All right, Superintendent Jean Harris. Former Superintendent Jean Harris. Is she culpable in this situation? The investigation says she presided over a system where the administrators just kind of created the illusion of where education was being achieved. Is she culpable in this? She says she didn't know nothing. This is the first time she's hearing about it. Do you buy that?
I don't buy that, but here's the point. The board, the Columbus City School Board, is at fault. Okay? They were in charge. They dropped the mission. I don't care what Ms. Harris did. It was the school board's responsibility to make sure this didn't happen. But down through the years, the school board...
What do you mean you don't care what Ms. Harris did?
Well,
the report was talking about some of the stuff Ms. Harris did. She was in charge of running the system. What in the world are you talking about?
We didn't elect Jean Harris. We elected the school board. We elected the school board in a trusting manner to take care of business. They failed.
And so what about Jean Harris? Is she culpable?
And we re-elected the school board to continue.
Is Jean Harris culpable?
You know, I don't think she's totally culpable. Look, think about it. Multi-million-dollar entity, Columbus Public School System.
It's $1 billion.
Do you think that they would have given all power to Jean Harris to run?
Well, she was superintendent of school.
Or instructions from who former Senator Ben Espy once called the Titans.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I don't believe that.
You think
Tyrone,
that?
Do you believe that?
The Titans stood the game.
What do you mean? You're telling me that the Titans pressured Jean Harris to set up a school system that was, in fact, rigging data to get results that were not correct. Is that what you're telling me?
They may have not liked the results, but they liked the way the money flowed.
Oh, give me evidence. Give me evidence to back that up.
The money flows in the contract. The money flows in changing the lunch system. The money flows in the bus contract where
you saying black folks didn't get no contracts down the
No. The money flows where we hire and pay $750,000 to an attorney to defend what? To defend people that we elected against us?
And we do know for a fact that black people lost contracts.
Yeah.
We know that
name one.
Capital Transportation, who had bus routes, only 50, 60 bus routes in Columbus Public School System, but Columbus wanted to do business with the largest transportation company in the world, and part of that provision is that no one else would be given another bus route.
What are you implying here? Huh?
I'm implying that we lost in contract, and we need
You're
to
not
look
implying that there was something illegal going on, are you?
No, but I'm implying that we should have gotten our fair share of contracts.
And we didn't?
No, I don't believe so.
So what was Jean doing down there, Irv?
I'm gonna have to side with John a little bit here, and I think that Jean was given instructions about what to do. I can't totally fault her. She was in charge. But what I can say about her is that when this levy came out, see, my question then becomes, why did this all break right now? What was the breaking point? And I think that
the Dispatch initiated the investigation.
Exactly, but why? When and at the time where the KIPP Journey Academy is being built on an old black golf course, okay, that the Wexners purchased, this is public knowledge, go and dig it up, and gonna put their new KIPP Journey Academy on this this old golf course. So you have to start asking questions. Who didn't want to play the game?
Wait a minute, I'm confused here. Are all y'all saying there's a conspiracy afoot here?
I think it is.
Is that a way so that you don't have to hold the black administrator accountable?
No,
is
but
this
we
another
always,
one of those?
We're the
I
ones.
see a conspiracy
no, but
somewhere.
we're the
Is
ones
that
that's always thrown under the bus.
Wow.
We get in these positions that hold no power, and then when we don't do or feel that we're going to go with the powers that be, the titans.
So you're saying
then
she's
we're,
not
we're tossed
responsible?
out.
You're saying
I'm
that
not
the
saying that she's
superintendent of
not
schools-
responsible. She had some responsibility,
What?
but I can't totally blame her.
What was her responsibility?
What we're actually seeing is we're seeing this type of big business up close for the first time. And we owe a great debt of gratitude to the state auditor for doing a thorough investigation. And some of you owe him an apology. Where's the report at? Where's the report at?
We
It
don't
took
owe
a
him
long
an
time.
apology.
We don't
I will not apologize.
He took a long time for the report. He did a thorough report.
Took
So
18
now when the
months. I have
thorough
a right.
report, when the thorough report comes out, then we're like, we don't say, oh, well, we didn't mean to press you that hard on it.
Oh,
Thanks
come
for
on,
the-
John.
sorry.
You know he held that
I'm
report
sorry.
until they
Yes,
tried
I know.
to
report.
He held the report till they stuffed the
Thank
levy
you.
down our throat.
He held,
If it
that's
hadn't
right.
been for a certain select group
And you know
of
it.
people, you being included, the levy
Absolutely.
would have been there.
And we'd have been
the report would still be on the shelf.
As a matter of
Thank you.
fact, I, as a citizen, if I had not pressured it, it wouldn't have come out as
Thank
soon as
you.
it came out.
Thank
and you
you.
give me credit. Watch out, buddy. But what I'm
Credit
saying-
is due.
That's right. What I'm saying is that the investigation implied that Jean Harris wielded power and did this herself.
Jean stood in the forefront.
She
The
knew.
Board of Education wielded the power. And the Board of
Apparently, the Board of Education wielded no power. They wielded no power.
I mean, you got to
All
stop
of them
and think
jumped
about
ship. Carol Perkins got out the way real quick. She said, I'm out of here.
Well, there's a price to pay for being the front man.
And instead of knocking on Jean's door and trying to get a report from Jean, we should have been knocking on Carol Perkins' door and asking Carol
Why?
to speak up.
She's
Because
the
Carol was
elected,
the leadership
she's the elected.
of the board.
She is the elected official, as the rest of the board members.
She didn't have charge of anything. Jean Harris, according to the report, ran the show. What are you talking about? This was a part-time person who only could come to board meetings and every night. She had a full-time job. That was Jean's full-time job.
And
So what are you talking
And I
about?
challenge you to not let her be the fall goat.
It's more
everybody
involved,
yes.
yes.
should go down with
Thank
the
you.
sinking ship.
And that's what I
Hopefully
said.
there's a trial. Because if there's a trial, there's some people that can be called to the witness stand, such as the former board president, such as, I want to hear from Michael Wilds, former school board,
former
the former school board member.
What are you gonna
who
hear
was
from him?
He was trying to tell everybody what was going on to some degree. He just couldn't articulate it.
Well, so was the other board members.
Well, I want to hear
Anifa
from Anthony
Kamban was
Gibson.
trying to
I mean,
tell
after
people.
he jump ship, goes over to the city, we probably need to be looking at our city council
Well,
because they probably, if
Ginther?
Anthony goes over to lead and he led over here, what's going on down
Well,
in city council?
what effect will this have on Ginther, Andy Ginther? Because I'm sure
The show should be involved.
He wants to run for something else. I'm sure of that. Will this thing have an effect on him, John?
He may not be the next mayor of Columbus.
Is that what's being
He's
scheduled?
president of city council. That
Well,
would be the next logical move for him to make. is to
Michael
be
said he
mayor.
ain't moving. Michael said he's going to be there 2015 to 2019.
Well, he didn't
He
move
said
the
mayor
snow,
for life.
so he might as well not move.
He said, I see that you did that. I didn't say that. Irv Jallow, where do we go from here on the superintendent? What should be done?
As far as the superintendent goes.
Stay right there. I'm going to give you a chance to ask him. Those who would deceive. Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari Free at Last. The state auditor's report found that some Columbus school employees set out to deceive the state of Ohio and the federal education departments and the people of Columbus. But the biggest victims of Columbus City school scandals were the children. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Irv Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Tyrone Thomas. Seems like the children have been left out of this.
You know it.
You sound like a campaign. You sound like a campaign ad.
Well, nobody's talking about the children.
I talk about the children all the time.
Even though they tried to do that in the levy.
in the levy.
Tyrone, what effect does this have on the children?
Corey, this speaks to the devastation that's going on in the black community in Columbus. It speaks to the crime. It speaks to the lack of education, the lack of job. It speaks to funneling kids through schools so they can take these these low-scale jobs that they're pumping into this community and telling people that, you know, you got to take them. And then you look at the prison
So
system.
our money
Look at
is
the
going to
juvenile
fund a corrupt, scandal-plagued school district that has been lying to us for maybe 10 to 20 years about educating, and yet the children that come out there can't read, can't write, can't do anything,
And
have no skills. Is
can't-
this what we've been funding?
I just can't believe that what was occurring in Columbus has developed in a vacuum.
No.
And I believe that the same thing is happening in major urban school districts throughout the
Atlanta.
country.
Well, we know, for
Throughout the
example,
country,
in
but
Atlanta.
the
Yeah.
light has been turned on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave Yost. The light has been turned on, and thank you, community. The light has been turned on.
You must be campaigning for Yost. That's the
something.
reason.
You know
He's
what?
got
No.
to be Yost's
No.
campaign.
No,
man.
but rarely in this type of system, rarely do you have a public official that steps up and says that I'm just going to be dog determination in order just to uncover this thing and be thorough in it, and that's good.
You know,
That report, Earth Jallow, I want you to, because I cut you off, I want you to finish. What were you going to say?
Well, I can't remember the question.
I told you.
However, I do have something else to say.
What?
You know, you talk about the children and how this
The
affects
impact.
them, the impacts of the children. And my thing is this: it speaks to moral integrity and values. You know what I mean? Because if these are adults that are supposed to be guiding and educating and putting the children on the right path, but you have been deceiving and cheating and lying, then how can we possibly hold the children accountable for the things they're
Now,
doing as adults? We
only
don't.
14 have
That's
left.
ridiculous.
Do you think it was much deeper than 14?
14 people?
Yet millions of
please.
absences were wiped away and only 14 people? Who is the system still protecting down there,
When
Tyrone?
you start pulling a report, you know that there's much more there. But see, here's the thing. I've been
That report only dealt with
ripping off this
2010.
system for so long. Who's going to stop me from ripping it off? The voters are not going to stop me. The Board of Education haven't stopped me. Ms. Harris said it was okay. So why should I leave? Why should I not ride it out and get the most out of the system?
So what you're
And when
telling
we
me
go
is that what we're funding is $1 billion trough, where all the people who got money and got power can come there and their contracts are juiced in, they get the money out of it, and the heck with it, and then they pretend like they're educating our children, and we fund it and go along with it. Is that what you're telling me?
In the words of former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tip O'Neill, he said that all politics is local. So when 20%, less than 20% of eligible voters participate in an election for school board members or for races that they think is insignificant, this is what you get.
Meaning what?
Meaning that we need to wake up and pay attention to what's going on. Get a clue.
Should we say no more property tax? Should we put our property tax in escrow? We might wind up going
Well, we already know that it's a corrupt system.
What
we
should
already
we
know
do
that the
to
state has
stop
failed
this?
to fund the system.
And
correctly.
there's 7 schools that are closing now.
But the 7 schools
This
that are
is in
closing-
retribution.
But
Some say.
some
This
say
is in
that.
retribution.
But however, were those schools meeting AYP for the
And the
last 3
answer is
years?
no.
So then they are. Then there's a clause that says that those
And
schools can close.
That
and be
includes
opened up in
Afrocentric?
charters.
Does that include
Listen,
Afrocentric?
If Afrocentric has not made AYP,
What is AYP?
advanced
It's age.
No, stop it. Academic progress, academic yearly progress.
All right.
AYP,
Meaning
academic
what?
yearly progress.
What does it
That
mean?
you have to be progressing yearly. You have to be, raising
Showing some progress.
yearly. And if you're not showing that, then why should we continue to fund a school that is not meeting
So you
the
want
educational
Independence in
standards?
Brookhaven shut down? Is that what you're
Listen,
saying?
if they have not been meeting AYP, then absolutely, what are you keeping the schools
And the
open
population-
for?
Nations have decreased.
Then
And
we're
the
doing the same
populations.
thing the board done. It's not about the kids. Why
Listen.
is this system not about our kids?
The system, the parents need to stand up and be about the children. Then I say that the children also are capable of standing up, signing petitions, saying what they need and what they want
Parents
in
are
the schools.
scared. Parents have been
Then
beat
you know
down.
what?
They're scared to come into that
You can't
system.
be afraid when you are trying to protect your child. It is your job, it is your duty. Get up off the couch, call off work, take a sick day, a vacation
And
day,
I believe
and get to the
I believe
school.
many parents did respond because, again, thousands of kids were pulled out and put into charter schools.
But I'm not talking about just responding.
That was their way of
not-
responding.
but
And the
not just-
population in these schools have gone down because of that.
I ain't talking about just getting mad when some things happen. I'm talking about being active all year long.
You
from,
were
from
active.
from kindergarten till 12th grade. I go to these schools. There's teachers that
parents
don't
are not there?
The parents never show up for a parent-teacher conference, ever. I got students whose parents have never set foot in the school other than to enroll them. So, no, we have to do better as
So
parents.
who cares about our children, Tyrone?
I care about our kids.
I do.
Who cares about our children?
Here's the thing, Khari. The people that care steps up, but there's not enough people stepping up.
Wait a
Because-
minute. You mean to
Thank
tell
you.
me people in this community have children don't give a well, I was going to say something
No.
else. Give a hoot about
There's
them?
a lot of
No,
students. There's a
they
lot.
care about their kids.
Well, then why aren't they
Khari.
fighting
But
for
the
them?
They
You got a
are.
corrupt school system.
The
But there's
pressure
not
to
enough.
survive every day becomes so great. But when you take 8 hours out of the day, the teachers, the administrators have our kids for 8 hours out of the day. They have them for the most productive hours of their day.
How
And
would you
they're
grade
not
the Columbus public school system right now? Would you give it
F minus.
What would you give it, John?
A D minus.
A D minus. What would you give it, Irv?
Yeah, I get an F.
Why you give it a D minus? For what?
Hope.
Hope.
I can bring that F up.
You'd give it an F. Why,
Absolutely.
Tyrone?
I give it F minus.
Why?
Because one, we already know that 58% of the third graders can't pass the reading test. But here's the other thing.
Quick.
You have our kids for 8 hours.
Wow. What should happen to the people involved in the scandal? Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. The audit found that thousands of African American children were passed through the system without receiving an adequate education or the help required by law. What should happen to the people involved in this scandal? Joining me is Talktainment Radio host Irv Jallow, Reverend John Coates, and Tyrone Thomas. All right, we come down to it. Now, should Ron O'Brien, should the folks get involved in prosecuting this, and should those people, if they're culpable, should they go to jail from the top on down? Tyrone Thomas,
Well,
start with you.
first of all, the people don't have any enrollment in the justice system. They can push and prod and poke, but it's all up to the prosecutor as to what charges are
What
gonna
should
be
the prosecutor do?
The prosecutor should ask for a public flogging of all
Meaning
people
what,
involved.
Tyrone?
In other words, the people that did this have to be brought forward. And
Should they be put in jail?
And put on the stand so they tell the whole story.
Put in-
and then punishment has to be leveled out that way. I'm not going to judge where they go from here. What I want is the result.
What do you want John, should the prosecutor jump in here and bring charges?
I believe so, and as well as the federal government, hopefully the Justice Department will step in as well. What we need is a trial, because in a trial, the lights will get turned on brighter.
Now, do you
He's
really
going
think there's
after
going to
the
be a
Titans
trial?
again.
Do you really think there's going to be
No,
a trial?
I don't think there's
No,
going to be, but I
please.
would like to see one.
Irv, what should be done?
I think that the people involved should definitely have some type of punishment delivered to them.
What?
Because when
Some of them have already lost their jobs. They may get decertified.
Find something else.
They may,
Well,
you know,
and
is
those-
that
and that's-
enough?
And that's punishment.
They lost their
That's
jobs,
punishment.
but how many of our young people are behind bars? How many of our young people are trapped in
Haven't been able to get the
juvenile
diploma.
systems that don't care about them also?
So why don't
How
you
many-
three stop dancing like James Brown and answer the question? What should happen to the people who are caught up in this scandal, who are involved in it?
Like
What
you
should
said.
happen? I'm
We
gonna ask
already
you
know
again.
that some are going to jail, but the others...
Is that what you want to happen?
Yeah, you broke the law.
Why?
You broke the law. You deliberately broke the law. You deliberately went for profit over substance. You didn't. You gave up on
If
the
the
kids.
superintendent is involved, what should happen there?
Hey.
Huh?
Jean should reserve
What?
her room.
Jean should do what?
She should reserve her room.
What happens
Room where?
And not at the country club, at Marysville or one of those up the street.
John, what should happen?
I guess that's the way of saying that you want state charges instead of federal. I think charges should be brought, and they should be tried by a jury of their peers.
Why do you want a trial?
Because
what would that do?
information will flow. Some people will come on the stand and tell what happened. We will hear the story
really
of what
happened.
happened.
Is that going to happen, Irv?
Probably not. But, you know, I think what people
Has a
lose it-
political deal, because it's been awful quiet since
Yeah.
that came out.
I-
Has a political deal been done
It could've been.
to not do anything else?
Well,
It
the
could've
deal
been.
was done while we was waiting on the report.
No, I understand,
Because
but
that's why
John,
it
has a
took the
political
report so
deal
long
been
to get
cut to do nothing else? Let
What
the
are-
report go
what
and
are
that's
you-
it.
What are you upset about?
I'm
We
not
have-
upset,
we have
I'm
a-
asking
we
a
have, we have a
question.
new black president of the Ohio State University. Aren't you pleased enough with that?
Please. But that
think
don't
the-
answer my question.
the
Has
lo-
a political deal been cut so that nothing else happens other than the auditor's report?
I don't believe so.
Do you think anybody anybody will go to trial over this?
I hope so.
No, I'm asking you, do you think so?
I hope so.
Why are you hoping? I'm asking you to think.
I'm hoping. I mean, the information's been turned over to the prosecutor, and I hope that the prosecutor will file charges.
My goodness, Earth.
Some people will have to go to jail. Some people will have to go ahead and fall on the sword. Some people who have lost their jobs, some people have lost their careers, and they're going to have to, you know, that is punishment.
Well, there's
That is
blood
punishment.
already. There's people that already have been impaled.
You know, so yes, it should keep
That's
happening.
what I keep asking. Is that enough?
It should keep happening until everybody involved has, you know.
Now, you guys are not out for blood, are you?
No.
That's not
No,
what you're
no.
saying.
No,
You
no.
just want justice?
That's it for the babies.
I want this system to send a message to the kids that we really do care.
Yes.
And here's our response.
All
if somebody
right. I
goes
want
to
to
jail.
thank host Earth Jallow, Talktainment Radio host Earth Jallow, the Reverend John Coates, and Tyrone Thomas. And thank you for watching Khari, free at last on Bounce23 TV.